All right. Hello, Brenda. Could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
So I'm Brenda S. Tolian. um, I write the Southwestern Gothic Horror is my genre. I do write some poetry and song lyrics and stuff like that and stuff too, but that's more just for fun. I'm not like you. I'm not like a poet, expert, wonderful,
Mm,
lyrical person. um, I also teach. I teach at a school in southeastern Colorado, and
mm,
I wonderful, wonderful students. And I teach English, film, and art there.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, so I've had some stuff come out, some giant books that I'm in. I only have one story, but I'm in there with a lot of wonderful, wonderful writers.
Which book is it?
So it's
Kind
the
of.
101 Proof Horror.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And it's by Haunted Mtl. They're actually out of Canada.
Okay.
And they have been really wonderful in, they've published some pieces of mine, but they're also wonderful at giving you feedback on your
Yeah.
work and
Awesome.
stuff. So I've been learning a lot, after
Yeah.
having hundreds and hundreds of rejections,
Right. But
and
why?
yeah, it's like okay, like this was wonderful, but it's not what we're looking for right now. I'm like, okay, I guess cannibals and crazy mountains and cultish things aren't exactly in everybody's bag of wonderfulness. And I also am academically published too. That is actually another part of my writing life that I love. I love to go, talk about themes and critique, um, like Nabokov. Like I could,
Yeah.
critique Nabokov, but I just love talking about like Nabokov and Kafka. And I actually did a paper for the Southwest Pop Culture Conference,
Uh-huh.
where I compared I compared oh Stephen Graham Jones's William, I think his name was William. It's been a while since I wrote that paper. His character in The Least of My Scars to Humbert from Lolita.
Okay.
That was fun. When people saw me that I was going to do that, they're like, "What is this lady up to?" But I think I made my argument okay. I was just talking about the devils that we kind of like, even though they're so bad.
Right.
You know. So yeah, that I'm just busy all the
Yeah.
time.
That's one of the questions I want to ask you because you teach, you're writing, you create music and art. Your mom, you're a dog mom, like, and you have this very rich life. And I want to. Oh, and you do like all kinds of workshops on the side too, because I was just in one. Um,
Yeah.
it was a really cool class, and like how. Like before we started recording, we were talking about actually making space for kind of like that downtime, that soft brain space that's
Mm-hmm.
not devoted to any of the things. And so I don't know. Can you talk about some of those things?
Yeah, you know, writing in the genre that I write in can be kind of stressful, like really, you're not just, writing trauma, you're inflicting trauma on the page, Um, it also, drags up a lot of stuff because to be able to write it in a believable way, you're pulling on stuff that you've experienced to some degree. So
Right.
it can be kind of like um, writing horror can be traumatic, So uh, I make sure I take time for myself, and a big part of that is music.
Mhm.
So I actually been working with a friend of mine, Erin Moore, and we made a little side band, Eris and the Monster, which is still horror. Like all of our songs and the videos for it are all still like horror and zombies and stuff like that. But he takes the stress off of me. So he does everything, all the music, everything. And then I just listen to it and I'm like, what in the world is he up to? Because it's just this, it's almost like it's like an opera or something. Like you can't just sing one thing through it. You have to do all this other stuff. But I've been doing that with him. Sometimes I work with other artists like you.
It's true.
We haven't done anything in a while.
I know.
Yeah.
Happen. I would love for that to happen again.
Oh yeah, because if I remember right, you were like, let's do something, and I was like, sure, just get out your phone and you just start doing your thing, and then send me the file. Yep. And it turned out to be this really beautiful piece, you know. Yeah. I like fitting the music around the words, you know, and you know, accentuating, you know, especially your voice, because the first time I ever met you, really, well, actually, I met you right before you went to receive your MFA.
Oh, shoot.
And then you sang. Yeah, we met. You were helping Sarah get her stuff out of the dorm. And I'd been wanting to meet you the whole time. And that was the first time and like the last. And then I was sitting with Sinjin and, you know, we were watching what was our first time watching an MFA ceremony, and here comes you, wow. And you're just like, you sang part of your, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I want to know this lady more. You know, I was like, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Oh, thanks for that.
So I knew I wanted to work with you, and I know that going forward, we got to work together some more for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other part of it is, you know, I play piano and I play different instruments. It's not always easy for me because I have early onset Parkinson's, so my hands, you know, get kind of, they don't behave all the time. Mm-hmm. And but when they are behaving, I can't play great guitar. I've never been a great guitarist. I've never ever been a great guitarist, but I like to play those tunes and just kind of like, it's almost like meditating, you know, and playing, and just like, I love to sing. So, you know, just playing with those notes and stuff, you know, it just puts me in this meditative, like really relaxed space.
Yeah.
You know, that I guess once I do it, because it's totally a hobby. I don't make money off my music. I've never even tried ever. So I do it mostly for myself, and then I like to share it because sometimes I think it will help, you know, someone else. I know like our school counselor was having a rough time and stuff, and had this surgery, and she's a wonderful school counselor for our kids, and she was really down. So I like just really quick, you know, put on GarageBand and like sing the song about how great of a counselor she was, and like,
oh, that's cool.
And stuff. So I like to gift my music, you know, to people. You know, just, it doesn't just make me feel better, it makes others feel better. And then singing with my daughter, both of my daughters are very musically inclined. Mm-hmm. And stuff. Nico, I can't always get Nico to play anything with me. If she's playing something, it's behind her door and we have to leave her alone. But Layla occasionally records with me too, and she just has this like amazing voice, you know. So I think that's for all of us then, you know. It's like a family, like relaxation kind of thing. It's a language that just soothes, if that makes sense.
So cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I admire that so much. And I also like the idea of making musical gifts, because like I think writers and musicians, we don't often do that. It's often like there's this weird feeling of lack somehow for some reason. But I remember when I was hanging around like the Denver Drink and Draw group, and people would make gifts of their art all the time, you know, so you would drink
Yeah.
and draw and you'd have like some amazing something that you're carrying with you that a new friend had created, you know. And I've always admired that and wanted more of that in like all the different facets of my life.
Yeah. And I know you do that a lot. And actually, I definitely try to do that as much as possible. You know, like I'm under no illusions that you know, that I'm going to be the next Stephen King or Stephen Graham Jones. I know that's not going to happen. So it's doing it for the joy it
Yeah.
gives me. And then also being able to share those gifts, you know, whether it's a song or whether it's a short poem I hand to somebody just because maybe they're having a bad day and they just need to be reminded that they're awesome, you know, and stuff. So yeah, it's a gift, you know. Sometimes it can make us a little money, but more often than not, it's going to hopefully affect some sort of change, even if it's with one person out in the world. And that's, isn't that why we do it?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not totally ever sure why, but I do know like you know, I have small projects, like I have my poetry postcard project, and I mostly don't keep track of where those little poems go. I keep track of the poems ish or drafts of them, but um like I want it to be a gift, you know. And most of the time I don't hear about how they're being received, but when I do, it's been really cool. And I do want to do more of that because it's just like um well, you know, like we have a huge community of writer friends
Oh yeah.
in
Yeah.
all kinds of genres, and there's often like this play on a sense of obligation to like support it all, and it's not necessarily sustainable. But like if we make a gift out of it, like that's different. I feel like I think a lot of poets work that way. Like we're always trading our chapbooks um and all of those kinds of things. I feel like just because of the nature of what poetry is and how it's received in the market or whatever,
Yeah.
to bring that big bad word into it. And so we're always being told, like, as a poet, you're pretty much SOL. So you have you have 300 books. What are you going to do with them? You probably trade them, give them away, you know? But I can't remember where I was going with that. But I just like, I really do like the idea of the gift. And also finding ways to support ourselves too.
I do
Um,
that. I also one way of giving that I promised I would say something about it to
yeah,
my students. So I have some students who because of COVID they were bored
yeah.
and they wanted to do something. They knew I was a writer and stuff, so we started this Zoom writing group
Mhm.
and stuff. So you know, it's like middle school and high school age children, you know,
Yeah.
or students. They aren't they'd probably be like, Miss, we aren't children. um and we're going to continue this. I haven't got to set it up at school yet, but we're going to continue this. And we just we get together on Zoom and we run it like a workshop, and they're so proud. They come up, you know, like I have one student, I'm just going to call him E because, you know, I didn't get his permission, but, you know, he's like, well, we're going to do this. We're going to do this writing prompt, and it's going to have this, this, and this in it. And we're going to work on it, you know, and stuff. And then my other student R, she also
Mhm.
contributes to it. And then we spend the week writing, or we write during the session like we're doing now in Zoom, and then they share, and it's amazing. It's amazing what these middle school and high schoolers can write. Like, oh my gosh, we have such talent, you know, here in the Valley with young writers and everything. So, you know, and that's just something that actually it's informed my writing. I've had a couple of horror stories come out of because all my kids love horror and everything, and they're like, Miss, you should write about this. And so that's, you know, kind of
Yeah.
what I've done, you know. So just that, you know, it's just giving, because when you I don't know, it's reciprocal, you know, it goes out of you and into someone else, and then it comes back to you. And, you know, someday those kids might be at the Regis program, you know, our new upcoming, you know, writers and stuff. So it's just, yeah, it's very fulfilling. Everything about it is, you know.
Yeah. Well, oh, and I was listening, so I like lost some of that. One of the things, oh yeah, we were talking about like how you're not totally sure how you started writing horror. Um
Yeah, I before, like, I would like watch like the Twilight Zone or
mhm.
something. I had never read, like, I had read maybe one or two Stephen King books in my whole entire life.
Mhm.
You know, I of course loved Edgar Allan Poe and stuff like that. But then my professor at Adam State had me start reading some Nabokov, which verges on there, and then some Cormac McCarthy, you know, No Country for Old Men, and
Yeah.
that started getting its claws into me.
Yeah.
And then Kafka, and I was like, I was loving it, but I was like, there was no thought that I could write that, you know. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna write poetry because I already write song lyrics, da da da. But then I thought about it, and I tried my hand at it, and that's kind of what I submitted the first time to Regis, and
Yeah.
it wasn't good. It was not good at all. I had to, you know, I had like 25 pages or whatever, and I had to cut out like 20 pages and go
Oh
back to
wow.
the drawing board. But I went back to the drawing board because we had that reading with Mario
Uh-huh.
DeVito. He read, and I was like, hot damn, what in the world is he writing? Like, this is so great, you know, and everything. And then after, you know, like, that's like, it was like vampires and aliens and on a planet, and I was just like, whoa, what's this? And then
Right.
right after him was Stephen Graham Jones, and he read, and I can't think of the name of it right now, it's going to drive me crazy, but he read that creepy, I'm going to call it a love story, you know, where the two, you know, teenagers go out into the woods, and you think they're going to like do something else, but instead they're
Mhm.
like slicing off their flesh and like eating it, you know, feeding it to each other.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
then like later on, you know, how you know, they keep on like in it's from the male's perspective, and he keeps on kind of coming back to it, and he's a married man to someone else and stuff like that
Mhm.
and everything. And I was thinking about memory, and I was thinking about love in general, and then I'm like, you know, the whole time he's reading, I'm like, I can write horror. Like, I can do this. Like, everything I want to say is going to sound stupid and mushy, and I never want to be a romance writer. Like, I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think I can write about a lot of different things that I want to approach, like, you know, the female body and
Yeah.
all, and, you know, trauma and friends who've disappeared into the mountains, or, you know, suicide, different things like that. I think I can do it through horror and do it very figuratively, you
Right.
know, um, and be able to communicate what's here on the
Right.
page, you know, in a very visceral way, in a way that, you know, is definitely, you know, on the themes that I'm approaching, without without getting like mushy or weird or anything.
Right.
Not that that's like a bad thing, and not that I don't read that stuff, you know. I love a good love story once in a while, maybe once a year, and stuff. But I really, you know, like my reading tastes do fall into like anything Stephen Graham Jones, anything Nabokov, Cormac McCarthy,
Yeah.
you know, Southern Gothic, and the Southwestern Gothic, and actually getting more into horror. So it's almost like I can approach it with a fresh pair of eyes, because I have purposefully avoided it up until now, if that makes sense. You
Yeah,
know,
that does make sense. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about horror. But I do know, like, as a kid, we used to watch like a lot of horror films, and I had my John Belair stage in junior high. So it's like
mhm.
pre, what's the one that people like? I can't remember what it is, but I was always, oh, Goosebumps, pre Goosebumps. And
Oh yeah. Mhm.
I think it's kind of maybe gothic-ish or something. But I'm not totally sure. But like the things that I find that the horror that I love is like almost like, you know, like old school fairy tales, really. Like they have kind of like some kind of moral thing tied to it. And
Mhm.
also it's almost like a lot of times it's those dark places a lot of us are afraid to go, which are always there and have never gone away. We just try to avoid them. And so I was wondering
Yeah.
if it feels like you're going about it a little different way, but it feels like too, like there's a certain stream of horror that you like. So like when you talk about No Country for Old Men, I think about how Sugar is like one of my favorite characters of all time. Like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
necessarily a bad guy, but more like a character of principles. And for
Mhm.
me in that story, he's the one character who holds steadily to his principles, and that's what makes him fucking scary. Because but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but he's not necessarily a monster. I mean, he is and he isn't. And
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
and then existentialism, like with that also is dealing very moralistically with some certain things moralistically, and also kind of like, I don't know, a certain kind of mindset. Existentialism is definitely a mindset. And so I don't totally have like a question, but I was wondering if you can talk about that a little bit, if I'm getting to it enough.
Yeah. Well, I think I totally agree with you on that. And the reason being is like I'm interested. Um, I've met some monsters in my life,
Mm.
and that have affected my family. You know, a lot of trauma. You know, my daughters and I have come out of, and you know, wondering what makes the monster tick, what makes them, what makes a monster monstrous, you know. um you know, Sugar, um you know, when you're watching No Country for Old Men, he is definitely monstrous. He's definitely killing people. He's definitely on the outer, you know, in that liminal space,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he's affecting change,
Mm-hmm.
you know. He's making things happen. He's affecting change, but he also has this like I don't want to call it a moral compass, but he has rules that he lives by,
Yeah.
and he does not deviate from them
Right.
at all, you know. And that's, I think, what makes him far more scary than a lot of other monsters, you know, that we read in books or whatnot. And
Right.
I'm very interested in that kind of character. He's not I actually in my thesis I have the mountain, the blood mountains. The mountain is a protagonist. She is a she, um and she isn't necessarily like, she's affecting change with her natural raw power and just the immortality of being this mountain. But um it's not her that's actually like doing the evil bit, but her influence on change to those who come to her, you know, her sides and climb up her, you know, climb up the mountain,
Mm.
are often affected, you know, negatively most often. um because they don't belong there, you know.
Yeah.
So like I make this commentary of like manifest destiny. You know, the mountain is, and the things that are surrounding the mountain, the valley, the sand dunes, all of these places are natural and, you know, a part of the world. But then, you know, the Anglo aspect starts encroaching and they can't handle it. They're coming from civilization and thinking they're going to make all these big changes. But the thing is they can't change that mountain. She's always been. So it ends up kind of changing them. You know, they turn into skinwalkers, they turn into wendigos, they turn into weird elk creatures and stuff like that. Not like Stephen Graham Jones's latest book where he has an elk woman. I was so excited and I was like, oh my God, I wrote this story, I think a year before him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our monsters are totally different, I swear. And stuff, but it changes, it just accentuates those broken parts of people, you know, and their need to consume their environment and people and, you know, the resources and stuff like that. And so I think in that way, who is really the bad guy, who is the monster in stories, you know? And it makes you question that when you're looking at like No Country for Old Men. It's easy to say it's sugar. Everybody else in that story starts off, this is the way I am, I'm a good person, and then they end up breaking their own moral code, and they all end up dead, and usually by sugar, you know, and stuff. But it's almost like that is the payment for breaking your moral code. Something bad is going to happen. You may not necessarily die. I mean, we all do it. We all, you know, have a moral code, maybe break it, maybe get lost for many years and lose ourselves. And then we remember, you know, hey, this is how I should be living my life, you know. And I need to get back to that. So part of that too is like getting back to the mountain, but not in that consuming way where you're just going to consume everything around you kind of thing.
Well, I love hearing about the mountain because it sounds like their transformations are just, you know, according to nature, and also according to, I mean, like I said, like I feel like a lot of horror art is like moralistic, and it teaches. They're there to teach us, because you know we can't have the dark without the light, and vice versa. And a lot of times we try to like avoid those things, and you know, for good reasons. There's some scary shit. I get it. But I like to think about, like, the reason why I like horror is it reminds me to, especially when you're dealing with like kind of trickstery characters, I think those dangerous tricksters remind us to be very aware of where our compass and our boundaries and, you know, those places that we should tread. Things are not, I don't want to say should, but like it reminds us of where those lines are, so that we can learn, like, I know it's dangerous to say how to interact with that energy, but like, you know, where do our boundaries need to be so that we don't end up with our entrails in their mouths, you know, like, and or end up becoming something that, you know, we don't want to be, or something like that. But
or consuming those around us, harming others, you know, and stuff. That's a lot of in a lot of my writing, you know, they're not necessarily bad people or whatever, they're broken somehow. And it's like, you do not know what you are doing, you know, you don't know that by giving into this, into your vices, into your need to consume whatever it is that you are consuming and neglecting, you know, the people around you, your family or your children, or, you know, I have a lot of stories that deal with, you know, like parents who have, you know, neglected. They've gotten so into the mountain itself and
Mhm.
the cult that exists there, in my fantasy world, that they forget that they need to nurture their children,
Right.
or nurture their spouses, or
Right.
and different things, and then they end up kind of like, the more they do that, the more they're becoming the creature, because they're no longer the person, that they were before. And
Right.
that's where the creatures come in. That's where they might turn into the crazy, skeletal face elk being that's going to chase, one of his children through the woods,
Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff,
She's like, wait, I'm sorry, come
or
back. But like the language is totally
yeah,
distorted at that point.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then, I talk a lot about, what it does specifically to women,
Hmm.
how women can be so good at nurturing each other, and having this strong bond and sisterhood, but we also are very, very guilty of victimizing each other,
Hmm.
you know um, not listening when someone says that they've been harmed or assaulted or something like that, or not listening close enough, or doing something when that a woman has passed on, has committed suicide or something. I mean, a lot of my writing does come from the loss of friends, who were left alone, and I didn't and other people didn't recognize the pain, so it's also like, part of it's a talking to myself about, I need to be more aware and more caring and nurturing to people who are in pain,
Right.
because if I don't, and if we don't, then we aren't community, and we aren't
Yeah.
supporting one another, and then we lose one, and then we're like, what, I didn't know they were feeling so bad. And
Yeah.
it's like, actually, yeah, you probably did know. Yeah, I probably did know, and I could have done more, and stuff. So it comes out of a lot of that too,
Yeah.
you know dealing with those feelings I have about friends that I've lost because I wasn't enough in tune to their, the pain that they were walking through, you
Do
know.
you have you found other writers that work in this vein? Because I know, we've got our Rob Zombies and our slashers and all those kinds of things. Like this is, we're actually dealing with some sociology and,
Hmm.
some really deep kind of psychological truths and things.
Yeah, well, I've actually made, because I'm a member of the Denver Horror Collective,
Mm-hmm.
and so that has been, along with my Regis family, the Denver Horror Collective has been like this new family of writers, both men and women,
Mm-hmm.
who are, definitely exploring those kinds of topics in their writing. Um, I did the talk that you were at.
It was
Um,
phenomenal, by the way. It was
mhm.
really great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. Working with female writers on that. So I don't know. I don't. I don't know of any, and that's not to say there aren't any. As I said, I'm not. I write it. I'm a baby though, when it comes to horror. So I don't know of many other writers who are exploring that aspect of, like, female writers
Mm-hmm.
specifically. There's a lot of female horror writers, so for I just I honestly don't know, I guess, would be the best way to say it, rather than pretending like I do.
Well, I
um
I mean, yeah, that's what we do, right? When we don't know, like I feel like with the work I've been doing, I didn't know a lot of these conversations were out there already happening.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
just by doing the work and querying, I learned, wow, I'm not alone. That's fucking awesome. Like, there are other people talking about this. There's a conversation, you know.
Yeah, I've had the conversation, like, you know, with Adrienne Montoya,
Uh-huh.
who I did the talk with on Gothic, but primarily Southwestern Gothic. And I know she has definitely some, she has a book in the works that I'm hoping she'll get to work on a little bit more on La Llorona. Exploring. Yeah, she's exploring that a little bit more. So, and so I'm sure there's another writer in our group, Joy, who she's like way published, that, you know, explores, you know, from a female perspective.
Yeah.
I probably can't share because it's what we share
Yeah.
in critique, but you know, she writes some scary stuff. It's scary. It scares me. And she, you know, she goes there. And I think that's actually something that women can do. Well, the men might get mad at me, but that women can do that men can't quite do in the same way. How would I say it that way? They can't do it in the same way.
Yeah.
Because we do give birth, you know, because we do go through the horror of having a parasite growing. Actually, in my case, I had 2 parasites growing in me, you know, who fed off me for 9 months, and then I gave birth to them. You know, my kids aren't parasites. They're very, very smart, wonderful, beautiful, beautiful young. But we go through some experiences. I mean, you know, we literally, well, thank God I'm like way past that, but you know, we go through a time of like bleeding every month. Like, we are a walking horror story according to the definition. And so that was like my interest too in the writing, was like body horror. You know, body horror has been the realm of men forever, you know. Think of any body horror films. There's very few that are written and directed by women. And even, you know, the ones that are there don't always get, like, you know, the attention because, well, it's female. But who can honestly write it better than those that live it, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, part of what I'm attempting to do, and I don't know if I'll be able to do it, you know, great, but I'm trying, is explore body horror, because, you know, like, you know, we go through so much, you know, from birth to young girlhood, you know, to going through until we're old. It's just, it is different. So we should be able to commentate on what's being done, because, and not have our bodies just used to build tension or to push the story along, or, you know, or to, you know, it's kind of like, I think back to the old, what is that? The old horror, sorry, to me, it's horrific. The old oral, I think it's actually written down somewhere, but Tiamat, you know, one of the first goddesses we hear ever in mythology, you know, and everything that woman went through, you know, I mean, she gets shot, she gets with arrows by her own son, and her body is like ripped up and is used to form the earth, you know. And stuff. I had a student ask me, well, why do you keep on calling the earth a woman? I'm like, duh, birth. And stuff. And they're like, Miss T, you're talking about, I'm like, I know, you're middle school, and you should probably already be aware of this.
Didn't you guys take that one class in like 3rd grade or something? Like,
yeah. I'm like, you know, you guys should know some of this. You guys had Greek mythology and stuff, but you know, some of those older stories like Tiamat, you don't hear about that till what, college, you know, and stuff. You don't hear, well, you know what, you don't hear a lot of early mythologies. You just hear the white-eyed Greek and Roman mythology, and that's it. And there's so much, you know, that you can pull on for your writing now, for today, that has a lot more richness and color and beauty to it, and is just lush with all of these wonderful stories that can inform going forward. And I'm
Right.
not sure where I'm going with that. I'm just like thinking of Tiamat and
Like there's a bunch in Mayan and Aztec mythology too that are
mm-hmm.
brutal. Uh,
Yeah.
I I Chakotay or something. I don't I can't remember her name, but like essentially her head's being chopped off and she's giving birth to the son who comes out and avenges her. You know,
Yeah.
or even in Vedic mythology, one of my favorite kind of manifestations of Kali
Mm-hmm.
is a mother who has two daughters who are just, they're hungry, 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 hungry. And so she chops off her own head to feed
Mm-hmm.
them. So there's, you'll see the pictures of blood spurting out of her neck and her daughters are just happily
Yeah.
drinking it, which
Yeah.
is freaking fantastically gory and horrific, and wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, there are these stories everywhere. I think Jewish mythology or the Jewish texts have some really
Yeah.
powerfully scary stories. uh
Yeah. And Native American,
Native
especially where I'm at, there's a lot of influences there, and it influences my writing for sure
American.
because, I'm trying to write specifically. It's kind of placed here in the valley, but it's also my special imagination valley for sure and
Yeah.
everything. But when you first come here, you're like, it's a flat bowl, like the San Juans are on one side and Mount Blanca and the Sangre de Cristos are on this side, and it looks like there's nothing in some ways. It's like hauntingly stark, wonderful beauty. And when you come here, you don't realize the wealth of stories that are already in existence, already are here,
Right.
that you can draw upon, as influencing your work. I mean, this valley's definitely been rough and harsh, for sure. But it's also been very, very giving. And, it's when I first came, I was like mountains and flat valley. And now I'm just like, it's just super, super lush with layers upon layers of just ancient history,
Yeah.
oral traditions, stories that are passed on. My students just tell me, like, well, my great grandmother, told my grandmother, who told my mother, who told me, and I'm going to share it with you and stuff. And then, I've had some really great professors here who have always lived here. They're like, their family's always been here and are able to share those stories, and stuff. So it's also about like pulling, borrowing, changing, mutating what you're hearing to be able to put it on the page too. I mean, a lot of folks here in the valley used to have a lot of land, and the government came in and took it. you know Writing treaties in English when people didn't speak English,
Mhm.
and stuff. So there's a lot of history with that. We have the penitentes, and stuff. It's definitely a wonderful place to write.
Yeah.
It really influences. It's really given a lot to. It's taught me a lot being here. It's definitely a land to be taught lessons. The earth
Yeah.
here, the land here teaches you. As well as the people that live here. I'm a transplant. I'm not from here.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're kind of falling, like you're be- becoming part of the land. I don't have a better way to say that right now. It sounds like kind of like your story of the mountain where people are like, I don't feel
Yeah.
like probably you came in with this kind of mentality, but like they're like, we're going to conquer it, but really the mountain's like, the land's the same way it's always been, and you're going to
Mm.
become this stuff, actually, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I moved here wanting some healing.
Yeah.
I moved here hoping, you know, and I've gotten it. Definitely. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
You know, I came here to the Valley for a lot of different reasons, but one of them was to be able to do alternative kind of treatments that weren't available to me in Illinois for my
Gotcha.
Parkinson's
Yeah.
and stuff. And, you know, through much trial and tribulation, it's definitely improved. I have great doctors too here. So, you know, that's
Yeah.
also helped and everything. But yeah, it made me stop being like just depressed, like, oh, poor me, I have this affliction, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah.
I try not to think about it unless I have to go talk to my doctor, you know.
Yeah.
You know, um, I just do a lot to be bigger and different than a diagnosis, you know, and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but, you know, and
I
we all have shit,
We do all have
you
shit.
know, that we have to, we do, we
And
do.
I feel like, though, like from what I've seen and what I've gathered from you, is like you're still living this very full life, and very meaningful life, you know, not just living it for the sake of living it like some people do, like I'm going skydiving or whatever, you know, like that kind of shit, which is fine, that's cool. But like I just feel like you're looking for the meaning in every facet of everything that you're doing. And like I wonder if there's like a anchor through all of that, like
Um,
the healing and
I
the
think
learning and
I had a really good teacher. It was a woman that that I cared for, like literally cared for her.
Mhm.
And I'll just say her name was A because I didn't get permission. She has since passed on. I didn't get permission from her family, but she was a wonderful teacher, and you know, she couldn't move her body at all, just her lips. And she was a wonderful writer, wonderful writer. And she was a dear, dear friend and a spiritual, you know, I looked up to her for even her spirituality and everything. While my family and I were going through utter horrible, our horror show, you know, we had some major things happen, and so she was very gracious and loving and taught me just to kind of lean into it, and then also to stop being a whiny baby and start doing stuff, you know, and start making the life I wanted. And sure, life wasn't how I wanted it right then,
Mhm.
you know, and then part of it too is like going. My daughters, when they were going through their separate traumatic things, you know, there were times I didn't know whether they were going to survive it, to be honest. And I wasn't sure I would see them graduate high school, and then they did. And then they kept on getting stronger. And so, you know, when they were in high school, I went back to college, which was really hard for me. Went back to college, and I did it for me, but I also did it to prove to them, no matter what crap we had come out of, no matter what we were still currently going through, we could continue to, you know, improve and grow and change and stuff. And so I went back to school, and then they graduated. Like I said, that was huge.
Yeah.
And then they started going to school. We actually all had, you know, like classes together at Adams State and stuff. And then it was kind of like we are really, really close. I and my daughter, Nico and Layla, like we're just super close, and we just push each other, encourage each other and stuff. So I would say we anchor each other, you
Yeah.
know, to keep on improving and going forward. You know, one's studying anthropology, she's doing her bachelor's and master's at the same time. My other daughter is an English lit major, you know, who's looking to do her master's in counseling.
Nice.
And you know, I think that plus then I made some really, I keep my circle small as far as friends and everything. Like
Yeah.
I don't and I don't really go out or anything, you know, like I'm at home. I'd rather be home writing
Yeah.
than doing just about anything or watching some stupid show, you know, like this week we're going to probably get that Mulan and me and the girls and whatever college students they bring home. My other children that are not my children, and we'll probably have a Mulan night, you know. Um, but I think it's family, you know, just that closeness, you know. I'm also close with my mom and you know, my grandma who is just, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even want to guess her age because if I said it and she saw this, she'd be like, I'm not blah 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 stuff. But I come from very strong women, you know.
Yeah.
My mom was a single mom for a lot of my life too. And you know, she worked 3 jobs and pushed and pushed and pushed, and she kept me and my siblings, you know, going and close and everything. And then she really taught me how, I think, how to be a good mom. You know, we definitely had our rough patches and stuff, but we're really close. We had some time where we weren't, but in the recent years we've gotten a lot closer. And my sister, oh my gosh, my sister is going and getting her doctorate, you know. So we have some warrior women in my family, just, you know, absolute warriors, you know. My kids, my daughters, you know, they're killing it out there.
Yeah.
Not in a horror way. You know, and stuff. So it's family. It's definitely family. Like they are as excited when I get something published as I am, you know, and I'm as excited, you know, when they get an A on some 20-page crazy paper that they're writing in their senior year, you know. They're just, yeah. And then our dog's a girl too, and she's totally powerful as well, except for when thunderstorms come, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to talk about um like it's interesting because like I've never thought about like how actually very personal horror can be. Like so like in my head I have like 3 columns. So there's like this column of healing that's happening and recognition of these kind of dark realities about being human. And then also I'm really curious about body horror because it just feels like it makes the material directly universal, because all of a sudden you know we all have bodies if we're,
Yeah.
you know, and there are some things that are very scary to us, like I don't know, being flayed scares the fucking shit out of me, for example. Right? Like
Yeah.
knock on wood, please don't ever do that to me. But like, you know, stuff like that. And then at the same time there's like this fascination. So like, you know, when we're a kid we're like peeling off the scabs and stuff, and sometimes it goes too far and etc. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm getting at. Like there's also the certain degree of feminism. So we have like the mountain, and I imagine a lot of other characters as well. And the mountain is it's teaching the reader something, but it's transforming kind of these interlopers into kind of maybe what they are. Like you talk about the Wendigo archetype, which is I've read some books that talk about how like American culture is Wendigo, and like European culture, that's what that energy is, like that insatiable hungry creature that is just, you know,
Mindlessly consuming,
yeah, just
you know, just,
mindless consumption.
yeah, just like, just not thinking about what they're consuming. Yeah. Like as far as like body horror, like I have one story that we actually just workshopped at Regis, and I don't, it hasn't been, I haven't shopped it out to be published because it still needs a little bit of work and stuff.
Yeah.
But for this one, I was trying to make a commentary on the female body, and so many voices out there say, you know, trying to have command over the female body, legislating the female body, you know, you can't have an abortion, birth control pills are a form of abortion, or, just the struggle back and forth. And so I had this character who actually goes and she goes and gets an abortion. There's this group of women throughout my book, like it's different stories, right? So it's kind of like I read Steinbeck's Pastures of Heaven.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever read that, but it's kind of it's gothic and it's creepy in its own way, but it influenced the skeleton of my book, essentially. But so I have the Red Women are kind of a group, they're not good, that are throughout this all my stories. They're kind of in all of them and stuff. But this woman she's part of the community and she does things with the Red Women and stuff, but she isn't actually a part of this like social cultural body.
Okay.
And so she explores her sexuality. So she has, whatever, she has sex with different people and stuff. And she ends up pregnant, And so she doesn't want to be a mother. She's not ready to be a mother. And so she goes and has an abortion.
Yeah.
And then when she's coming back to the community, she starts to have like problems from it. So she starts, bleeding a lot, and knows something is wrong. And there's no doctors in this fictional town. There's just, midwives and healers and stuff like that, but no actual doctors.
Yeah.
And so she goes to the town healer, and the town healer is like, oh, you're just having, your moon is really bad. And for those who don't know, moon is hippie speak for, having your period.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then she's like, no, that's not what's going on. And she has to admit to this, healer of what she had done.
Right.
And the healer assembles the Red Women, and they, do different things and stuff, but basically they are angry that she has, had an abortion. And by the end of it, there's this big ritual ceremony up on the mountain, and she ends up getting a stone, like they carry a stone out of the river, rushing down the side of the mountain, and they sew it into her, to symbolize putting everything back to rights, essentially.
Right.
And then she's placed inside the mountain, and I never make it clear, like she's kind of, it's almost like she's telling the story herself from inside the mountain, but the harm to her body is being done by this group of women on the mountain.
Right.
But the mountain itself is not harming her. And when she's inside of the mountain, like it's unclear, like she's not terrified, she's in pain, she's going numb and different things and stuff like that. And she can feel, the rock in her belly, but she's in this weird space where she can still tell her story. But when I was writing that, sorry, I got to move my foot has fallen asleep. When I was writing that, there was this whole, a lot of the different legislation, that was trying to be passed here in Colorado, that is over and over and over been passed, they're trying to, Roe versus Wade, and trying to overturn that and everything. And I just kept on thinking, when this story was coming to me, it was just like, it's horrific to me that anybody would be telling anybody what to do with their body.
Right.
And whether that has to do with the female body, or like if it has to do with, the transgender population, what they're doing with their bodies. and people forcing their views onto them like a rock in their belly, you know,
Yep.
and trying to tell them who they are, what they are, and, you know, and sexualizing it all the time, you know.
I'm sexualizing it. Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's not, that might be the smallest percentage. Mostly it's about how we are inside and what we choose to do with our bodies, you
Right.
know, and stuff. And so I wanted to, in a very, very visceral way, and I you know, I think I grossed a few people out in residency and stuff. And there's a lot of things that I got to do to change, you know, work on it and tweak it, because it's, you know, part of my thesis and stuff. But that was my interest in body horror. And that's funny because like before I couldn't even, oh, somebody turns that stuff on, I'm the first one to be heading to another room. Like I can't take it.
Yeah.
And stuff. And I think honestly, it's I don't know, a numbness that has come through, you know, again, trauma that happened to
Right.
my family and to other women that I know, and children that I know. You know, trauma that was done to them that I guess I don't want to call it a numbness, but I'm past the fear of it, you know, like there is nothing that could be written in this world that will truly and utterly frighten me after everything that I've been through or seen my children go through.
Yeah.
So I'm able to like approach it in that way. And I realized that using the thing like a stone being sewn into someone's belly is a powerful way to make a statement
Yeah.
about it. You know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody's going to read it, and not everybody's going to, you know, resonate with it, but some will, you know.
Okay.
Some will.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, while you're talking, I'm thinking about like it's Cronenberg, right? Is it like Cronenberg, where he like, I don't, I gotta look it up really quick to make sure I'm getting this right. Essentially, so I'm thinking about body horror and kind of like, I don't want to say traditional sense, but like, kind of the way it's been treated for at least a little while.
Oh yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, I think it's David Cronenberg. So Cronenberg, I think, is known specifically for like the melting of bodies and blending them together and just kind of like this gross kind of, you know, visual horror with.
Yeah.
And then for some reason the centipede came to mind too. That's a really uncomfortable
Yeah.
thing that I know about. I haven't seen it. I saw like the beginning and tried to watch it. I'm like, you know, I really don't need to do this. But like, I guess I'm thinking of that because it's like, you know, those are like shock
Yeah.
value kinds of things. But this, what you're doing is a little different. Like it's well, it's a lot different. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you.
Well, actually, because of my critical paper is speaking about that, and I've been reading a lot. So now, yeah, sorry, I've been reading so many books lately. You know, when like Centipede or the Human Centipede or whatever, and I haven't watched that either. I've read enough descriptions. I don't need
Yeah.
to watch it. And the commentary, you know, the commentary on that coming out of, you know, feminist and the very few female directors and writers who are also making body horror is once again, you know, taking a woman's body specifically
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, sewing it into others, you know, into gruesome end. And it's using the body simply for sensational purposes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just for the scare factor, just for upping the tension and stuff. It's not really, I'm sure he had a message in it. And again, I've never watched it, so I don't know what his message was. I
Mm-hmm.
know he's been in some articles that I've read where he, you know, the director's talking about, you know, the film. He's kind of like blasé, you know, it's like it didn't occur to him that he was taking, you know, the sacred vessel of a woman, you know, and using it in this way. And
Mm-hmm.
we see it all the time, not just in horror. We see it in books. We see it in, you know, in literature. We see it, you know, it's not the woman who has feelings. She's hysterical, you know, and stuff.
It's just the object of my desire forevermore. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, you know, I'm realizing that, that women don't have agency moving through these pictures and these pages, and a lot of
mm-hmm.
times, you know, due to the government and you know, the world we live in, we don't have agency walking across the street to get our mail, you know.
Right.
It's like, so I look at horror as this powerful tool, you know, to be able to push that to the surface and be able to make those commentaries on, you know, abuse, domestic abuse, you know, female bodies, with sexuality, not
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, there's a couple of stories where I do have rape or assault scenes, and I try very hard to treat those as just like really quick, this is what's happening, because what really is important in that moment is what's leading up to it and what's coming after it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they don't tell you is often when you're going through that experience, you are not in that experience. You know, women leave the body when their body is being abused and traumatized. And so,
Yeah.
being able to reflect, like, I mean, oh my gosh, how many rape scenes have we seen in movies or
That
whatever
are just
that are,
gratuitous. Yeah.
you know, like, obviously, you know, a man wrote that, and obviously it makes you wonder if he's done that in his life, because he's certainly writing it from his perspective. You know, it doesn't reflect on what a woman is going through at all,
Right.
and stuff. And so it's important to me to be able to, yes, because I forget, what is it, 1 in 4 women have, is that the, I think
That's a
that's like,
high number. Yeah.
yeah, 1 in 4 women has experienced sexual assault in her lifetime. Most women don't report, and if you do report, you get grilled. Then it's the second rape. Then your community and the judges and the defense, you know, the defense attorneys and, you know, all these people come after you. Like, and that's any woman,
Yep.
whoever reports goes through all that. So most women don't report. Most women don't want to talk about it, you know,
Right.
and stuff. And so, but it's something that we go through. And so being able to write that, you know, and into a story from our own voice and our own perspective, or at least mine, I mean, I'm the writer, I'm the one writing it and
Right.
stuff. But I also have, you know, different women who have, shared stories and different things, knowing that I write, hoping that I won't tell their story legit 100%, but that I will give them a better outcome than they felt like they got. You know, like,
Yeah.
could you just kill that dude in the end, you know, just
Yes.
whatever.
I was just I was thinking of a couple, like Death Proof for me was super cathartic. I don't know if you've seen Tarantino's Death Proof. I've
You
not
know, I've only
it.
seen parts of it. I haven't seen all of it, but I did watch,
Yeah.
for the first time ever, I watched Jennifer's Body.
What is that one? Jennifer's Body.
Jennifer's Body has was it Megan Fox is in it?
Oh wow. Okay.
And I was like, holy crap, I love this. I love this movie. Like, everybody made fun of it when it came out, and it was more, you know, they look at it as more comedy, but it actually speaks to, you know, like, women who are, you know, sexualized and or experiencing enjoyment in their sexuality,
Right.
you know, and stuff, who are made to be, uh you know, the whore, the slut,
Yeah.
and everything. um and so, but men can be, you know, they can be
Oh, yeah.
100%, yeah, you know, and stuff. But women have always, you know, had to take on that mantle, you know,
Mm-hmm.
put on the scarlet letter and walk through life, because
Right.
choosing to be their powerful selves, you
Right.
know, and you know, so there's a lot of, you know, tropes and themes like that that I approach, and then I of course approach it through a very visceral blood, guts, cannibalism,
Oh,
you know,
well,
kind
I
of
know.
thing.
I can't wait to read more of it. I went through a horror phase a long time ago, but like this is horror that's interesting to me. And I've noticed too, like we were talking earlier about like where the conversation is, and I was thinking of this Netflix series. I think it's like Two Sentence Horror Stories or something like that. And one of the stories that
Mm-hmm.
starts out with is a woman who is dating a man, and she has baby, a baby, and and this man is actually, you know, and there are a lot of stories similarly where well, let me explain it first, I guess. But the man is essentially dating women and finding the quote unquote bad mothers so that he can, you know, destroy them, like he kills them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's starting to lead that way with this woman, but the table turns at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really cool. I was just like, and there's some other stories in that series that are similar too. Like they're like turning the tables on kind of these old tropes of the male, you know, hunter killer guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when I first started watching it, I'm like, "Ah, great, another one of these, you know, like, and then it turned, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the conversation's out there for sure, and I'm really excited to see how that changes the landscape. Um,
Yeah, I am too. I think we're going to see a lot more women contributing.
yes,
I think as I grow in my writing and also my, you know, what I read, because again, not hugely experienced with the horror
yeah,
trope and genre. So the more I read, the more I'm gonna come into contact with other very brave female writers. That's
hmm,
not to say, because again, so, you know, some of my favorite writers, honestly, are of the male. You know, and actually, I really enjoy writing from the male perspective. You know, like I have a blast with it. I love it. Um, but that also might be, you know, my ability to be go from one side to the
yeah,
other and back again. You know, have enough foot kind of in both worlds. But I think we'll be seeing a lot more exciting works coming out there. I know, you know, like we have the Patties, you know, and Regis who are writing some horror
okay,
and different thing. Yeah, you
yeah,
know, the two Patties, and then I don't really know because, gosh, you know, we were in Zoom, so I didn't get really, you know, normally you can rub shoulders and stuff during
yeah,
residency. I didn't get to do that as much, but so I didn't get to see what other people are writing.
yeah.
But I really think that we're going to be seeing a lot. Like there, I think there's going to be an explosion. I think women are like going to be like, nope, I'm taking this over, and I hope they do. I hope they do
Yes,
because women need to be able to see themselves like for real in a story and not always the way that the male, you know, perspective writes and films us, you know.
yeah,
Not that that's inherently wrong, but it's definitely time for women to be able to talk about all those crazy things, you know, that are going on in
right.
their own bodies and the, you know, what happens to their bodies. Like I think it's a very brave. So I'm encouraging other writers, get out there, girls,
Absolutely.
ladies, you know, join me in writing some more female horror, you know, from our perspective,
Yeah.
you know, because we need it. So,
Awesome. Well, I have to close this
yeah,
up pretty soon, so I want to make
thanks.
sure folks know how to keep abreast of the work that you're doing, and also like how can we support you?
Um, well, um, let's see. Well, I mean, I just had the 100 proof horror come out. I've had there actually a lot of my stuff. If you go to the Denver Horror Collective,
Mm-hmm.
to their members page, it lists all the authors. I probably need to have Josh update it with some of the more recent things, but definitely you can find my stuff there. Um, supporting the work isn't just supporting me because I do this really because I love it. I know I'm not going to get rich off of it. But supporting your writers, other horror writers. And I can tell you for certain that, the Denver Horror Collective has some on fire writers who are teaching me a lot. And then, our music's out there. It's on SoundCloud and Reverb, and you just type in my name and you'll find it, and type in your name and we'll find you. And yeah, I don't know. As far as a giant book coming out, I got to write my thesis first.
I
Like
get
I'm like so huddled down. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm over 60,000 words. I'm just punching away at that. So, yeah, that's the best way. Go to the Denver Horror Collective and you can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook and stuff like that too. I'm on there a lot. I watch TikTok a lot, but only because I watch it. I'm one of those people. Like I,
You're on
I
TikTok.
watch yeah, I watch it, but I as far as me making a TikTok, like me doing some dances, nobody really wants to see that. So and stuff. So, but otherwise, I would just say, yeah, that's how to get a hold of me and
Awesome.
everything. And hopefully, you and I can collab.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to do a full album because that was
Wouldn't that be
definitely,
fun?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was really fun. And it also makes my little should have been a goth kid heart happy.
Oh yeah.
Because
No.
it's like, that melancholic kind of stuff that I love.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah. We will. We'll do it soon.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna close this up.
Okay. It was so good to see you.